Good morning, church. It's Monday. It's actually Martin Luther King Jr. Day. So for those that are students, you probably have the day off. If not, you're probably catching up on homework or whatever it may be. If you're not a student, I'm hoping that today is still a blessing for you. And maybe this devotion would be a way in which you can find that and maybe hear what God has to say for you today. I'm just glad that you're here. So with that, let's begin. Now, my first devotion that I shared with you guys for the 7-minute devotions, I talked a little bit about fear. And that session or that morning devotion, I shared with you that I had a fear of what people thought of me. And some of you guys can agree with that you also have that fear. But I thought of another fear I was thinking about today's devotion, and that's the fear of the unknown. Now, more specifically, the fear of the unknown as in like fear of deep bodies of water, right? Whether it be a lake, an ocean, a river, whatever it is, anything with a deep body of water. But let me explain. Now, it's not because I'm afraid of drowning. I know how to swim. I'm like a little shark in the swimming pool. But if you've ever gone swimming out in a deep body of water, you would know that sometimes it's a lot deeper than you anticipate, or it's like not very clear. The water is kind of hazy looking, and so you're trying to look through the water, but you can't really see the bottom. Or maybe if you're like swimming out in the evening and the sun is setting, it's like a lake or something, and there's like all these plants in the lake, and you can feel it like touching your feet, and you're like freaking out because you don't know if it's like an animal or something like trying to grab your leg or trying to pull you under. So yeah, that kind of fear of deep bodies of water. Now, back in early 2014, I actually had the chance to go on a mission trip to a small country in South America called Guyana. Now, the mission trip there was to go to a small Adventist mission academy and to just kind of help with the school, help build a new home for one of the local people there as well. But it was in this small city called Sipruta. Now, it's about a total of 9 hours away from the airport. So from the airport to the port city where we would get on a boat, that was a 3-hour drive. And then on the boat, we would have to cross this river that bordered Guyana and then the country of Suriname. And we had to take a boat for 6 hours till we got to the village of Sipruta. Now, when we got to Sipruta and we're looking at the river as we're coming, it was really dark. It was very brown, maybe light brownish, but you couldn't see through it. It was a lot of like mud, and so it was just hard to see. But I remember as we got off the boat and we were talking to some of the missionaries that were already there, kind of explaining how things worked and what people were doing, they were telling us that a lot of the kids like to swim in this river. It was really it was a really wide river, very deep, and kids were swimming in it. And they said, hey, you should join the kids, go swimming with them, but be very careful because there are piranhas in the water. Now, if you know anything about piranhas, or have seen videos or documentaries about countries that have piranhas in their water, you would know that piranhas are not like they're not friendly fish. Okay, and when they eat, they'll eat, right? And they eat flesh. And so you see videos of people sticking like a whole chicken in the water, and then a few seconds later they pull it back out and it's just like bones, like all the meat is gone. Now, that's pretty scary. And I think ever since then, I started to have this kind of fear of the unknown, right? The fear of what is that in the water? Or what if there was something in the water that's going to nibble at my toes and I'll come out and not have a toe, right? But if you think about it, really, deep bodies of water can actually be quite frightening, right? When you go swimming in it, it's really like so vast. There's so much just water. I know that sounds weird, but so much water. It's so much like unexplored territory. I remember when I was a missionary in the Philippines, when I got to swim in the ocean and we would go snorkeling, it was so unreal. It was so huge. It was so mysterious because it was just like, wow. I don't even know how to explain it. But anyways, according to the National Ocean Service, they say that only 5% of all the ocean has been explored and discovered. So that means 95% of the ocean is still unknown. 95% of the ocean is a mystery. And who knows when we'd be able to fully explore and understand everything about it. I don't think we'll ever be able to. That's so much ocean, right? Now, in the same way, Paul continues in his letter to the church in Ephesus about this beautiful yet mysterious, wonderful thing called God's grace. Look at Ephesians chapter 3, verse 8 and 9. It says this. It says, although I am less than the least of all the Lord's people, this grace was given to me to preach to the Gentiles the boundless riches of Christ, and to make plain to everyone the administration of this mystery, which for ages past was kept hidden in God, who created all things. Remember, Paul is talking to Gentile believers, and he's telling them, look, I'm the worst of the worst. I'm the worst of all sinners, but God's grace was still given to me. And that's mysterious. That's unbelievable. And now my job is to tell all of you about this mysterious and boundless, or maybe your translation says unsearchable riches of this wonderful gift from God. You see, in the same way, just as the ocean is so vast, so deep, and so mysterious, God's grace and love for all of us is so vast, so deep, and so mysterious. And it's interesting because Paul also says that he wants to make plain for everyone to see this mysterious gift of grace that God has given. But notice that he says it's for ages past. This mystery was kept hidden in God. So remember, Jewish believers at that time didn't think that anyone else could receive God's grace or God's salvation. They thought it was just for them. But Paul is saying that no, this is for everyone. And it's for all of us to hear now, right? But to us, it's a mystery. We hear it and it's like, wow, that's so incredible. God loves us so much, he would give it to us. But to God, this was all a part of his plan from the very beginning of time. So remember this. What we know about the unknown is this: the mysterious and boundless riches of God's grace was meant for you and me.